He'll go and put out an airing of grievances he has with the spending of the U.S. government. He'll just go and highlight all these bizarre projects that the U.S. government is throwing money at. Like they're throwing $500,000 to commission a study on lizards running on treadmills. Yes, it is. It's like,
but you should be doing that in this province, in this country, and taking down people like Trudeau who are spending like mindlessly and paying his family, whatever it is, on all these corruption things. It's just ridiculous.
And it's like, this is probably the only group that's going to do it. Because even if you had someone like, give Aaron O'Toole or give Jagmeet Singh a 220-seat majority in the election, they're not going to do a thing different. They're going to be the exact same. Because like, what do any of these three groups disagree in severe substance on? They'll disagree with each other a bit on shades, but there's no radical difference between any of these three groups on what they disagree on.
How about what's your stance, or what's the party stance on climate change?
For me, I don't like the way the argument is framed. I don't like that they keep framing it as kind of a moral matter. So when they say things like this is an existential threat, well, okay, how radical are you willing to go on this? Because, and just even things like, we look at, so one that they'll try and say is something like, Canada has one of the highest carbon emission rates in the world.
Right.
Which, I mean, it's true, but if we start turning the heat off in Saskatchewan in December, it's probably not going to go very well.
I said that to myself.
Right. But here's another one. If this is such a radical and existential threat that we need drastic action now, should we be following South Korea or North Korea? Should we be following the example of South Korea or North Korea? Because South Korea has a per capita carbon emission rate that's somewhere between 5 and 10 times that of North Korea. Depends on the source. So some are closer to 5 times, some are more 10, 12 times. But regardless, the carbon emission rate in South Korea is drastically greater than North Korea. If climate change, so basically there's 4 points that I would need to be established. One, the climate's changing. I'm totally fine to accept that, but it's just something that we need to make sure of it first. Second, a lot of it is caused by humans, so that there's actually something we can change. So it's not, like volcanoes or something that's like, there's nothing you're doing about it. 3, that this is a problem. So it could be changing and it's caused by humans, but it's not a problem. So you could get something like, one observed effect is global greening. When you put more carbon dioxide into the air, you're able to go grow plants better. And the 4th is that not only is this an existential threat, but your proposals will work to alleviate the existential threat. And I just don't think that taxing the public is going to work. Because it's weird how all of these policies, every issue, it just seems like more government control is always the answer. Climate change? Oh yeah, the government needs to tax you and make you spend more money.
Any threat to any population, they're just trying to get more and more in the pocket. They're already 40% of the economy?
Yeah, the coronavirus, we need more government control. You need to shut down your business. And again, people like Jagmeet Singh, they'll say things like, nobody should profit off a pandemic. But you're also the same one who's endorsing these policies that just through no fault of their own are funneling all the business to the Waltons and Jeff Bezos. And then you'll say that they shouldn't profit off the pandemic. They can't do anything but. Like if all of us here were running an ice cream shop and the city of Oakville shut down all of you but left me open, I didn't do anything. But the government shut all of you guys down, so now everyone who's going to go buy an ice cream cone from you guys is now coming to me. I don't have to raise my prices a bit. I can just drop them by 50 cents and get even more business.
Well, you know what I don't understand? The thing I like about the lockout is I get to work from home.
Yeah, so that's about the one thing that everybody likes, and you know what? Like, okay.
But they want us to go back, and I'm still trying to figure out why. They don't have to pay for my seat. Yeah. They don't have to lease that building. They don't have to pay for my computer, my feed, my phone, and they don't, it's ridiculous, and they want us to go back, and I have a feeling they want us to go back because the rest of the economy is saying we want people to drive by and waste gas, buy gas from us, fix their car, get Tim Hortons coffee, whatever it is that they do, buy lunch from us. That's why they want us to open, not because it's better for my life balance, right?
Well, I mean, my view of it is kind of just, I break the politicians up into 3 groups. I put them into one class where they're people who acted in good faith. So these I would put people like Ron DeSantis in Florida, Brian Kemp in Georgia. These were people who they thought back in March, April 2020, this is something like on par with the Spanish flu. China went and locked things down in February, and we'll trust China. We don't we may not trust them in general, but we think for something this existentially bad, we'll take them at their word here. And then
I think Taiwan acted really well.
Well, so here's the weird thing though. When you look at East Asia and Oceania as a class, it doesn't seem to really matter what they did. They all have pretty comparable death rates. So one of the other ones that I have in here is Brazil and Peru. So we'll hear a lot of bad things about Brazil because Brazil didn't really go along with masks and lockdowns. But we don't hear anything about Peru. And one of these two is Brazil, the other one's Peru. Which one do you think is Peru?
Well, I guess the black one is Peru.
The black one is Peru. Okay. So now they won't talk about what Peru actually did. Here's how nuts Peru was. Within 2 weeks of the first known case in the country, nationwide lockdown enforced by the military. So this went from about mid-March to July 1. 3.5 months. So this was even more stringent than anything New Zealand did. And Peru actually acted before New Zealand. So we can track how governments responded with a measure from Oxford, the Oxford Stringency Index. Peru acted quicker, and New Zealand only had their initial lockdown in for about a month. And then their Oxford Stringency Index went from about 96 back to 22-ish at the end of April 2020. Peru was at 94 basically until July. They dropped down to the high 80s for a bit. So they went and they did that. But they didn't just have a nationwide lockdown for 3.5 months, they also had a nationwide mask mandate. That didn't work. They had a nationwide curfew from 8 to 5. You were confined to your house. And there was a guy who went to go throw his garbage out in that 8 to 5 prohibited period and he got arrested. Wow. Yes. So you couldn't throw your garbage out between 8 and 5. So just go outside and throw your garbage out. You couldn't do that. 8 to 5 didn't work, they made it go from 6 to 5. And for some parts of the country, 4 to 5. So for 13 hours a day, there were people in Peru confined to their house. They could not leave for any reason. Except for, maybe a medical emergency. Maybe they would have been allowed out. And then they even tried something more nuts, that every time I mention this, people just laugh at how insane it is. They said that only men could leave the house on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, only women could leave the house on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays for essential activities like grocery shopping and banking, and nobody could leave the house on Sundays. Yeah.
What logic did that have?
Because then it would just keep people from, there would be less incentive for people to fraternize or something at grocery stores.
For crying out loud.
They had to abandon this policy though after 8 days because they realized that the lines on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday when the women were allowed out were longer than on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it wasn't actually working. So they abandoned that policy after 8 days. But they tried it. None of this stuff worked. And ever since July the 8th of 2020, so we're going on 14 months of this, Peru has had the worst cumulative death rate of any country on Earth. So they're at about, I think, 600 deaths. I think it's deaths per million. I forget offhand whether it's per million or 100,000, but it's the same for every country. They're at 600. The number 2 country is Hungary at a bit over 300, so like 330, something like that. So Peru, despite having some of the most strong actions and fast actions of anywhere on Earth, have the worst outcomes, bar none, and it's not even close.
I really wonder what these zips are.
Yeah.